So let's get started. So good morning, everyone who has joined the wonderful webinar in this Saturday morning. So before going to the introduction about the topic, so let's give about introduction about ourselves. We are SUG Coimbatore. So we are the organizers. I'm Prabhu. I'm one of the organizer, and I have two co-organizers. Gautam Iswaramurthy and Vignesh Jyoti Kumar. So we are working around a decade of experience in Sitecore, and all three are Sitecore MVP to 2024. So this group belongs. The main reason we created this group is to collaborate and communicate. I'm collaborating the Sitecore skills and if the and for the communication. If there is any queries, you can reach out us and in just to collaborate that things to make Sitecore effective, development effective. And so today's topic, it's about future proofing your digital transformation with Sitecore Headless Services. Mr. Amit Kumar is presenting this topic. He is working as a solution architect, and Sitecore continuously getting the site awarded as Sitecore MVP since 2019 to present. About this topic today is so how effective doing the Sitecore Headless Services can revolutionize your digital transformation journey. Into the any website creation, whatever it is. So in this topic, it will mostly covering upon the effective of decoupled architecture and seamless content delivery and the global scalability and whatnot. So this I think this session will be useful for not only the technical whoever it is. This session we are sure it will be very beneficial, and I'm glad to introduce Amit. So what you please take it forward from here, Amit. Thank you.
Over to you.
Amit, you are in mute.
Yes, sorry. Hey, hi everyone. Hi SUG Coimbatore for having me. So as Prabhu covers that, I will be covering the high level information on the Sitecore Headless Services and how we can utilize this to build up the digital transformation. So agenda of today's session is the introduction. What is Sitecore Headless Services? Cloud and some useful information for technical people for the Sitecore headless architecture, how different components are stitched together. And also, when you are proposing, what are the things you need to remember before moving to the Sitecore Headless? And this is something about me, myself, Amit, and working as a solution architect at Fevnad. And I am having 19 plus of IT experience, and you can reach out to me any of the social channels if you are having any need any information or wanted to connect with me. Moving to the first section of this session is the about session. As Prabhu covered that, I will be covering mostly on the Sitecore Headless part, and it will help you to understand what is Sitecore Headless CMS and how it's different from the traditional ASP.NET MVC CMS, and what are the different components are required to build up the Sitecore Headless implementation. So now I will be moving towards what is Sitecore Headless Services. So before moving to the Sitecore Headless Services, I will be touching upon a difference between a traditional versus headless CMS. So you all worked on the ASP.NET MVC, right? So where you will be having a CMCD, XConnect, and other Sitecore roles are there. So in those cases, you will be deploying the backend and UI and code plus plugin and frontend and everything are tightly coupled. And you will be deploying both these things, frontend and the backend, into the your content delivery to get the required output, like the HTML which user is going to access. So in those cases, if you need to do any changes, you need to wait for the backend changes deployment also. But when you are moving to the headless CMS, so in those cases, backend UI where content author will come and do the content authoring, that part, and the API are tightly coupled. And the content delivery is not via the server where you have deployed the code. It will be via the API endpoint so that you can consume that in any of the channel. Like if you are creating a mobile app or you are making app for the smartwatch or if any offline things are there, you can get it. So in the traditional content management system, it combines both backend and content management system or even the front end, and all the layout details and everything are tightly coupled with each other. You will be not able to get only the data out of that, and it's an integrated solution in a traditional one, right, where the everything is tightly coupled with each other. So many people are utilizing that currently, and they are able to serve whatever is the business requirement. But in some cases, maybe they wanted to share data with any third party system, upstream, downstream system. So they need to have some sort of API layer. That is the only way. So people are using the API controller also, and and making it a publicly available, and people are able to access that. Some people have wrote a proxy layer and using the controller to get a data. So there are many ways people have implemented a headless in a ASP.NET MVC based on their need. When we will move to the headless CMS, so it will decouple the backend and the front end, and it utilizes the API, so you can communicate directly with the CMS via the API. Some CMS are providing the content delivery as well as you can do the content management also via the API endpoint. So it's a flexible because you do not need to wait for a to deploy a front-end changes. So both team, backend and front-end team can work together, and you can easily deploy your front-end changes while your backend team are working. And it will also allow to create a dynamic web pages you usually used to do in the ASP.NET MVC. So in summary, if you need any flexibility, scalability, so and developer freedom, then you need to move to the headless CMS. So coming to the Sitecore Headless Services, which is the main component if you wanted to go with the Sitecore as a headless content delivery, you need to install or use this service in your content management system. So when you will be deploying your existing XM and XP, it will deploying the modules, some assembly and the configuration. So you will be able to get the rendering engine, media handler, those type of components are there, which is enabling the headless content delivery. And you can utilize Sitecore headless content delivery in XM, XP and the XM cloud, and also as well as in the content hub one also, if you wanted to build up a microsites or a website or a CMS where you do not want a experience editor type of things. So currently, when you will be installing this using the Sitecore headless services, so currently you will be having a support for a in the terms of a Microsoft stack, you are having a .NET Core SDK. So you can utilize those SDK or NuGet packages to build up your front-end applications, as well as from the client-side scripting point of view, you will be having a support for Next.js, React, Vue, and Angular. So, but the current concentration or a favorite is the Next.js because all the advanced feature which is required by the front end are coming into the Next.js. So, if you are planning to build up the headless application using the Sitecore CMS, and then you need to go with the Next.js because most of the features are coming in this. And this headless services module is having a rendering engine, media handler, graphical. So generally, this component will help you to gather your presentation layer, and it will generate a JSON format of that, and that is served from the layout service. And GraphQL endpoints are generally are there when you are using the GraphQL endpoint to get a content delivery. So the difference is that GraphQL endpoints is a, you can say that the object type of things or a tightly coupled data types are there. Whatever you will define in the your presentation layer, those type of items are coming, and you can return the result which is required by you. You can decrease the data packet size when you are sharing the data with others. So you can create a query. So in those cases, it will be very useful. Same way, dictionary service and the import services, these are the services you can utilize to get the data from the site code. You can feel free to stop me if you are having any question in any of the slides. So now I am moving towards the available products to use the site code as a headless content delivery. So as you all worked on the XP platform and the experience manager, right? So in both the product, we can utilize the Sitecore Headless Services. So in those cases, you need to, as I said, that you need to install the Sitecore Headless Services module. So these two products you can host either on the cloud or you can do the self-hosting. In the terms of the cloud, you will be having a you can create Azure VM or a AWS VM. You can create a virtual machine and install the Sitecore, or you can go with the PaaS. And also, Sitecore is providing the Sitecore managed services, which is different from the XM Cloud. So Sitecore will host a instance for you, but you need to do all the maintenance by yourself. So that is one option, and other is that you can do the self-hosting by yourself in your own data center, or you will be installing in Azure VM. So with these two products also, you can use Sitecore as a headless content delivery. So other option is that Sitecore is hosting the instance for you. So there are three options are there like XM Cloud, XM Cloud Plus, and Content Hub ones are there. In XM Cloud, you do not need to host the CM instance for yourself. It will be hosted by the Sitecore, so you do not need to do the infrastructure provisioning or the management or upgrade, and everything will be taken care by the Sitecore. And here you will be getting a subset of CDP and the personalized. So you will be not getting all the feature of the CDP and the personalized, but when you will go with the XM Cloud Plus, so all the uh, experience composable product like a content management system, search, connect, CDP personalize, all will be coming as a bundle. So you can go with that if you wanted to utilize full-fledged Sitecore headless composable product suite. And third one is the content of one. So when you want to have a lightweight content management system where you will be just creating the content, there will be no presentation layer, nothing. So everything will be taken care at your front-end application to build up the schema for your page itself. In those cases, the content of one is very useful. So in all these three types of a product offering from the composable suites, the content delivery is via the experience edge only, right? So I will be covering the more insight on the experience edge in the upcoming slides. So these are the three products which is offered by the Sitecore 2 uh, from the Sitecore headless SaaS point of view. And if you are going with the Sitecore headless services modules, right? So you need to buy a separate license for them, right? So it's not like that if you are already having a XP and the XM, you will be able to utilize that. So you need to pay the extra cost to utilize that. But in some organization who are cost savvy, right? So in those cases, people have earlier built up their own proxy layer, as I was explaining earlier. People are utilizing the OData item service API, RESTful APIs if they wanted to get a headless data or they wanted a data via the API endpoint. But these uh, APIs are not sharing the presentation details. Presentation details means that when you are creating a page in Sitecore, so first you will create the page template. In page template, you will add a placeholder. In placeholder, you will be adding a component. In component, you will be giving the data source path if you want to render some sort of a static data. So those type of details will be not come from these two out of the box APIs. But people have written their own custom layers which will be traversing the page and taking all the placeholder components and they are getting the data whatever the format they wanted. But if that type of customization required the effort as well as the costing part will be there because you need to host your API node. So that is also an option, but it will require a lot of effort to build it. So when you are trying to build up your headless application, it's not like that you decided yesterday and you will start working on that. So there are more lot of preparation we have to do that, right? because you cannot go to anyone and straight away say that no, we have decided we will be moving to the headless. So in those cases, what are the data points which will be helpful for you to present to the larger audience in your organization or to your client to get a alignment on why we can move to the Sitecore headless? So first is there the flexibility and decoupling. So as you aware that the headless CMS will allow you to separate content management, right? Like a backend from your content presentation. So that is the one of the point which you can highlight. Like if you are having a more flashy UI or you are having a continuous request to change the UI here and there. So in those cases, you can move to the headless. And the decoupling in traditionally both the things are tightly coupled, but here you can work backend independently from the front end, and your front end team can work on the UI part or the UX changes simultaneously. So in those cases where you are having these type of business requirement or frequent requests, then you can also highlight what are the flexibility and decoupling. Developer freedom. So in terms of a developer freedom is that see headless CMS allow developers to select any sort of tech stack. So it's not is bounding is there that you need to write a code in the ASP.NET MVC itself. You can use the plain vanilla JavaScript itself, or you can utilize the Sitecore provided SDKs for the .NET Core or the JSS to build on that, right? And some organization they are moving to the Sitecore headless services, but still they are not utilizing the JSS SDK because some organization or a client don't want a dependency on any sort of CMS. So in those cases, they are having they are using the plain vanilla uh, client-side scripting framework like in Next.js, Vue, or React or Angular to build up their front-end application. They are just utilizing the API endpoints, nothing else. So people are doing that also. So that is also one sort of a freedom you can get it from the headless CMS. Future proofing. Future proofing means that so when you are planning to move to the headless or your organization is planning to build up the responsive application, right? So they will not move everything in a one shot. So they will start with first with the desktop, then they will move to the mobile app. So in those cases, if there is any requirement in the down the line, you need to build up a mobile application or you need to share the data with any other organization itself, right? So there also you can propose a Sitecore headless CMS. So for example, if you are having a enterprise organization where they are having a connectivity with many of the downstream system as well as the upstream system. For example, if your content author is adding a some sort of a values or information or a article which your organization is planning to sync to the with other organization. So in those cases, you can utilize the headless CMS easily because you are creating the content. You do not need to write any wrapper or anything. So in those cases also, you can propose that if there is any requirement in near future. Business requirement means uh, they are the different roles of the business user. Some are the product owners will be there. Some client is having a Sitecore as a product and they are onboarding many website and they are selling their website or a platform to the other organization. So in those cases, if the competitor is having a very flashy UI or a very good UX where lots of animations are there, which may not be possible with the ASP.NET MVC or required a lot of time. Like you maybe need to use the Flash that is a heavy. In those cases also, you can propose a headless because you with the headless or a client-side scripting, you will be having a community provided components are there which are very animated, right? So you can utilize those NPM packages also. Or your business user is wanted to have any UI related changes very frequently if they are receiving a request from their client. right? So in those cases also you are having a frequent UI changes. So then also you can go with the headless service. Multi-channel delivery, which I already covered, like you can make a future proofing to share the data with many other third-party system, or you can create a kiosk application or anything. Scalability and performance, like in generally when you are going with the ASP.NET MVC, in those cases you generally will be having a one CM which where you will be installing all of the roles, right? And the CD you will be going with the two or a three depending upon your need. But generally people will go with the two CD and Solar will be separate, right? So in those cases, whenever in any festival is going on or any sale is going on, then you need to scale out, right? To support the load. So in those cases, you can decrease the load on your content delivery, because if you are going with XMXP, then you can have a one CD and front end you can will be having in the Linux based web application or a VM or a Vercel, depending upon your requirement. So in those cases, you can decrease the cost also, infrastructure cost, or if you are moving towards the experience edge or the Vercel, so auto scaling will be there. So you do not need to take care of the performance of your content delivery, but you need to take care of how you are organizing your content or information architecture, because most of the things depending upon there. So those things you need to take care, but rest of the things, if you're moving to the SaaS product, it will be taken care by them only. So there also you can make sure you will be getting a good performance and the scalability. Project requirement, like in some of the project, people are thinking that if they are coming with any changes, right, or a frequent changes, and they are talking about a release in a very less time. But if you are moving to the headless, so all the business logic will be in the front end application. Backend part is that you just need to create the schema of your template itself. But in front end part, you will be having a flexibility to utilize most of the third party components, right? So in those cases, you can save the time there itself, and also if more UI changes, UX changes, right, or a integration things are there, that will be separately handled by your API layer. So you are not depending upon any of your text stream to be completed to go live, right? So you can independently work. So in those cases also it will be very useful. And there is a list of functionalities in a backlog which is more UI heavy or a API heavy. So in those cases also the best to move to the service oriented architecture if you have not done with your existing ASP.NET MVC, and also the existing skill set of the team if you are having a more front end heavy team, right? So in those cases also you can propose to move to the Sitecore headless, because in most organizations people are having only one or two backend developer and most of the teams are on the UX and UI part. So you can train them and start utilizing them in the Sitecore headless team. Technical requirement is that if you are having any upgrade is pending or your Sitecore version is going to sunset, so in those cases you can propose to move to the Sitecore headless. And also if your organization is strict to some of the technology tech stacks, or if they don't want to use the old technologies like a .NET MVC, they wanted to move to the .NET Core only, right? Because some enterprise client will be reviewing their tech stack in every 1 year or a 2 year, and they will initiate to move to the upgrade version. But you cannot move to the higher version of a .NET because Sitecore MVC will be not having a higher .NET framework, right? So in those cases, you need to move out of the old version because there may be some security compliance will be there. So in those cases, you can use this point to propose a headless. And also, if you are having a technical depth, which is similar to do the greenfield project, so in those cases, you can highlight this point. Now I'm moving to the feature comparison. Here I will be covering XP, XM, and the XMC. What are the products, or how to do the installation, what type of installations are there. So first I am covering the content management role. So when you are going with the XM and XP, so there are two options like these two components. This component is required when you are going with the headless schemas with the XM and XP. So you need to provision by your own, or you can go with the PaaS, or you can go with the Sitecore managed cloud. But you need to do the management of or in infrastructure provisioning of this content management roles by yourself. So so if you are thinking that when you are moving to Sitecore headless, you do not need to do anything, so it's wrong. So you need to consider these infrastructure provisioning and the management cost also and effort also while proposing it. When you are moving to the XM Cloud or XM Cloud Press, so content management role is provisioned by the Sitecore, and all upgrade will be taken care by the Sitecore. So you do not need to do any provisioning or the management. So there you can save the cost if you are moving towards the XM Cloud. Same case with the content delivery. So when you are with the XM and XP, like your on-prem PaaS or anywhere, you need to provision the content delivery role by yourself or by any third party, like a Sitecore Managed Cloud or a Azure or a AWS. You need to host your VM, or you can utilize the web app. So all provisioning management will be taken care by yourself. And here you can get a content delivery from a GraphQL endpoint and a Edge GraphQL endpoint will be there, and the layered service endpoints are there. So here I have highlighted a two GraphQL endpoint. So when the Sitecore introduced the Sitecore Headless Services in Sitecore 9 onward, so they called it as a Sitecore JavaScript Services. So Sitecore 10 onward, it will be called as a Sitecore Headless Services. When in the Sitecore 9, they introduce a GraphQL endpoints, right? But now Sitecore 10 onwards, there is a one more schema is there, Edge GraphQL endpoint, that is totally different from the GraphQL endpoint. So by default, Edge GraphQL endpoints are enabled. But if you are on Sitecore 9 and planning to move to the Sitecore 10, so you need to enable some configuration in the Sitecore to utilize the GraphQL. But if you are planning to move to the XM Cloud, then you need to change the schema or your queries, whichever you have wrote in the GraphQL and GraphQL schema to the Edge GraphQL schema, as well as if you are utilizing the layout service endpoint, you have to change those into the Edge GraphQL endpoint, because when you are moving to the XM Cloud, then the content delivery is via Experience Edge, and Experience Edge is supporting the Edge GraphQL endpoint, not the layout service endpoint. So those things also you need to consider. So when you are moving to the XM Cloud and XM Cloud Press, the content delivery is provisioned by the Sitecore. It's a part of your, you can say that the license. So it will be taken care by the Sitecore itself. So you do not need to host separate content delivery server for that. It will be a SaaS product again from the Sitecore, and there you will be getting a GraphQL endpoint, and it's a CDN enabled. So you do not need to take care of the scalability things in this. So which I was covering in the earlier section, that you need to consider a scalability and this. So when you are having your own infrastructure or managed cloud, so you need to take care of a scalability things also if you are having a more user load on your website, because content delivery will be happening from the content delivery server, and your front end will be maybe making a call to the content delivery server, and you can place a some sort of a CDN in front of your CDN to decrease the load on your server. But if you are having a dynamic query or those things, then the load can increase the on your server. But for a normal content retrieval, you can save cost via CDN. So the difference is that XP and XP you need to host by yourself, but in XM Cloud it will be hosted by Sitecore itself. So now I am moving toward the front end app. So earlier when you are working with MVC, you will be hosting everything on your content delivery server. So people at that time will be not knowing about the rendering host. But in the Sitecore headless world, we will calling a front end app as a rendering host, because it will be rendering our application, that host which is having a code base. So when you are going with the XM and XP, and the best option is that you can provision your own infrastructure in terms of a Linux web app or a Linux VM and install the Node.js. Or you can go with the Vercel also or any Netlify. Also, you can utilize that. But some organization are cost heavy. They will utilize the CD by considering that now the we are moving to headless. So instead of having a provisioning a one more server, why can't install a Node.js server on the Windows and do that, right? But in those cases, complication can increase because you need to enable the port for your Node.js server so that user can access. And also, if you are doing deploying your front-end application in Windows OS, right? So you maybe see some intermittent issue which will you will not see in the this if you are going with the Linux OS. So it's always suggested to have a separate rendering host in a separate server or a web app, and always go with the Linux based OS and always utilize the Linux web app. Don't go with the Windows web app services. So in those cases, you need to host yourself if you are deploying on your own servers or utilizing any web app, or you can go with the Vercel or a Netlify also. So when you are going with the XM Cloud or the XM Cloud Press, so the preferred deployment partner is the hosting provider is the Vercel, because you will be having out of the box connector. You can deploy seamlessly code from a XM Cloud admin portal to your specific partner like a Vercel. But before doing that, you need to do the connectivity for your GitHub repo or Azure DevOps in your XM Cloud, and then the Vercel connectivity is required. And also, you need to make sure that the account which you are using as a admin, the same account would be used to make a connection with Azure and the Vercel. Otherwise, you will be not able to deploy your code. So it's always suggested to go with the Vercel with the XM Cloud, but some clients are Microsoft tech stack, so they will go with the uh, Azure web app like a Linux web app. There they are installing, but you will be not getting a benefit of a Vercel as well as the Sitecore XM Cloud connector, because you need to set up your own build pipeline and the deployment pipeline as well. You need to improve the build time performance, because if you have worked on the headless, you have seen that when you are having your own build pipeline, and if you will compare that with Vercel, Vercel is taking less time because it is a product and they may be having some sort of a mechanism or a customization which will decrease the time. And also you need to take care about if any of these implementation you are going with SSG, because depending upon a number of pages, if you are going with SSG, then your build time, your build time can increase, and then you need to decide wisely which way you are going with the SG or ISR. Because if you are having a thousands of pages and you are going with the SSG, then your build time increase. So some people are telling that it's going a 1 day, 2 days to build up the 2000, 3000 pages. So you need to decide that which pages are important to go with SSG, and then rest you can utilize the ISR. Like if whenever the user is requesting, then only you can build it serve to the user. So that you can say that the brainstorming you have to do that. So now coming to the editing rendering host. So it is also a rendering host, but the purpose of this is that it will be utilized by the experience editor in the CM role to open the page in the Sitecore experience editor. So when you are going with the XML as a similar to the rendering host, you need to provision by yourself and you need to deploy the same uh, code base, but the only difference is that it will be getting a data from a CM endpoint. It will be not getting a data from either by Experience Edge or via a CD, because those are the published content. And these you need to host by yourself. When you are going with the XM and XMC Plus, you do not need to host because Sitecore will be hosting this instance for yourself. So there you can save the cost also in terms of a experience editor because it will be hosted by Sitecore and it's a SaaS offering. But in XP and XP, you need to host by yourself. And in some cases, the clients which are on XP and XM, they are using the Vercel also, right? But if you have worked on the Vercel, you are aware about that. All the application which is deployed on the Vercel are publicly available. But some client having a requirement that they don't want their editing rendering host access to the public domain. And Vercel is offering a authentication and authorization where you can use a user ID and password to access that. But if you enable that and utilizing that Vercel based editing host in XP, XM and XP for the experience editor support, it will not work. Why? Because when content author is making a call from a CM and opening a page in the experience editor, then a post call is happening to the front end app, right? In those cases, you will be getting a 403 forbidden error you will be getting it because it is requesting or expecting a user and ID password to be transferred to the other cell and which is not possible from XM and XP or if you are enabling in X and XP it's not possible. So in those cases, its best option is that you will host your own infrastructure for a editing host and you can utilize the IP restriction so that it will be not publicly available. So that is one important thing you need to take care of when you are moving to any third party SaaS provider for hosting your application. So now moving to the Sitecore search option. So you aware that there is a one search option which is present in the CM, which is not meant to use by the end user. So I am covering this in this slide. So when you are with the XM and XP, you are aware that when you are installing the Sitecore, you need to host your own XM as your own Solar Cloud instance, which is utilized by the your CMS code base to search the content or you are writing some queries in that. So it will be utilized. So you are having an option to self-host or you go with the search tags to do that. So, but in those cases, you need to maintain everything by yourself if you are hosting in your own infrastructure. But search tag is a SaaS, so they will be taking care of all the hosting, but the cost will be there. In case of a XM Cloud and XM Cloud Plus, you do not need to host the infrastructure or manage. It will be taken care by the Sitecore itself. So there also you can save the time and the cost. But this Solar instance is not meant for the end user search. It will be totally available only to the CM role. And also you cannot access that and you cannot install computer index field or you are having a custom indexes which we generally have in the XM and XP based ASP.NET MVC. Those things are not going to work in the XM cloud. So that also you need to consider if you are moving or migrating to the XM cloud. So now talked about the Sitecore search functionality means site search functionality which is meant for the end user. If user is searching something in your website and user will be getting a data. So in terms of a XM and XP, you can host yourself and the data will be deployed to the content delivery, right? And from there you can get a Solar Web Index and you can utilize that, but you need to write a API layer for that. To if you are having your own XN XP and you are utilizing the Solar, you are not utilizing the experience side. So in those cases, you can utilize the your web indexes, or you can go with the search tag, Sitecore search. Also, one of the offering from the Sitecore, you can utilize that also to build AI based search or which is providing the contextual data to you that you can also utilize. And you can utilize the Covio also for that. When you are moving to the XM Cloud and XMC Plus, in those cases also you need to host your own search provider or you can go with the search tag, Sitecore Search, Covio. So best option is that a Sitecore Search because it's a part of a Sitecore composable product and you will be getting a better connectivity in terms of a Sitecore product. But the main thing is that currently Sitecore Search is providing the web crawling based search where you need to just give the sitemap and you can extract the data from your website. But if you are having a requirement to immediate do the changes into the Sitecore search environment, then you need to utilize the webhooks to do that. Currently, there is no mechanism that it will be immediately update. So that content in the indexes. So some organization like a legal or a pharma domains are there, so they are updating anything in their salt or any law firm is publishing anything. So they wanted content to be immediately updated in their website. Maybe you are having some component which is based on the search. So in those cases, you need to write your own custom logic like a webhook to push the data. So that is the only thing, but rest of the things you can easily achieve with the Sitecore search. So if you will go with the Sitecore search functionality, site search functionality in the headless world, you need to maintain the infrastructure by your own. So analytics option. So in all the cases, you need to utilize the Sitecore CDP or the personalize. If you are going with the Sitecore based product, you need to buy a license for that. But in terms of a XMC and the XMC Plus, you will be having a Sitecore CDP connectivity and the personalized, but only the XM Cloud Plus, you will be getting a full-fledged CDP. And one more thing you need to consider while proposing a headless, when you are having a XP base and you are having a large amount of XDB data, so you need to put a effort on migrating those content from XDB contact and the data to the CDP. Sitecore CDP, Sitecore is providing a CDP plus Sitecore Connect based connectors are there. So there is no utility currently present. It's a Sitecore Connect based connectors are there, and Sitecore Connect is also one of the SaaS product for which you need to buy a subscription. Otherwise, you need to write your own logic in a some type of a job where you will be extracting your data via XConnect API and pushing that. So all those logic you need to write it. So those effort also you need to take care. But you can build up a all personalization use case which you are having in experience platform, you can build up in the personalized. So that is there. So those things also you need to do a one-to-one mapping with your XM and XP based personalization requirement. You need to map. Then only you need to come up with that what are fulfilled and what are not. And if you need to go with the granular level comparison, then you can check one article from the system which is providing a useful information at a granular level. What are the differences are in between these products? So now I'm moving to the Sitecore headless reference architecture high level, which is giving you the overview how the different components are connected with each other. So if you are seeing here, I am having a CM and CD, and also I am having a Sitecore CMS content delivery, which is having ASP.NET MVC, also the editing host and the rendering host. So when you are trying to access the CM instance, then the content and the media file will be coming from the CM role. And when you are publishing in X1, XP Word, your data will be published to the Solar also. And you can publish the data to the other third-party search provider, Solar, Search, Covio, Search, and Algolia also, or any other SaaS product if you are using it, you can publish via caching the Sitecore pipeline. And when the editing rendering host, which is a part of a headless, trying to open a page in Experience Editor, then it will be getting a media files and the content from the CM role itself. And when you are having a deployed your ASP.NET MVC application on the content delivery server, then the media file and the content is coming from the content delivery role. Also, if you have enabled the CDN, then the media file come from the CDN itself. And when you are accessing your Next.js based Sitecore headless application, then also if you are going with the XM and XP, then your CD will serve the content as well as the media file. But if you are having a experience edge from the Sitecore, Then the content from the edge GraphQL endpoint and the media file will be coming from the experience edge, which is also a CDN enabled. But you need to take care of one thing, that there is a 80 request per second limit is there in experience edge, and also 50 MB file, more than 50 MB file size media file you cannot use from the experience edge. Those things are there. If you are having a bigger size of a video files or a media files are there, then you need to go with the DAM. And also you can crawl your data as to the any search provider from your front-end application. And also generally every headless application is having a service-oriented architecture, so you can utilize a service layer to connect with any third-party upstream downstream system to get the data. As well as if you are going with the XM and XP based headless implementation, and if you are having a Solar as a search provider, then you need to expose a service layer which will be internally connecting the Solar to get a data from a Solar, and it will be giving that data back to your service layer. So this is a high level information how the MVC based application and the headless based application are connecting with the different components, and what are the ways to get a such related data. Now I am covering how the Sitecore search can be utilized in the XP and XM based MVC world as well as in the headless world. So as I said that the CM will be getting a data from the uh, CMS application will be getting a data from a CM. And when you are publishing a data, so currently there is no connector are there, but in XM and XP, you can you can have a custom pipeline or a publishing end pipeline is there. You can utilize that and having some sort of a custom code, which will utilize the Sitecore search ingestion API to push the data. Or if you are having a webhook also, you can write that. So when someone is publishing the data, then you can have a edge webhooks which you can catch it and you can send the data to the Sitecore search to ingest it. And also you can share that data when the publishing is happening to the third party system. And also you can utilize Sitecore search in ASP.NET MVC also via crawling, and your front end app can also crawl, and your CD can get a data from your CD can serve a data to your headless application also. So with this way, you can integrate Sitecore search in the XP and XM. When you are moving to the XM cloud, so you are aware that as I covered, you cannot deploy computer index field or any custom code. It is not suggested because you can deploy, but maybe it can broke in future releases. So it's better to avoid any custom implementation. So in those cases, you need to use the Edge webhook, which you can have a Sitecore Connect Workato based webhook also you can utilize, or you can utilize any third party service provider like Azure or HookDeck you can utilize to build up your webhook, which will push the data to the Sitecore search, and from there itself you can push the data to the other search providers. And you are seeing that you are utilizing here a experience edge to serve the data, and your front end application can be crawled directly to the Sitecore search if you are not having a live content update, and your headless application also can get a data from a XM cloud, Sitecore search itself via API endpoint. So with this way, you can integrate a Sitecore search with the help of Sitecore Connect in the Sitecore XM cloud. So this is a high level architecture diagram for a experience edge. So here, these are the different products where you can utilize the Sitecore experience edge. When the content author will do the content authoring like a content draft, content review, and once the publishing, so publishing will be not happening to the your web DB. It is happening to the Experience Edge with the help of a Experience Edge connector. So if you can also utilize Experience Edge with the XM and XP implementation, but you need to buy a license or a subscription for Experience Edge, and you need to install the Experience Edge connector into your CM instance of XM and XP. You need to do that. Then you can utilize And Experience Edge will be serving data via Edge GraphQL endpoint in the form of a JSON, and it is a CDN enabled, so you do not need to provision a different instance in different regions. And then at the end, you can consume the data in any of the media channel of your choice. And this is the experience editing rendering host, which I already covered, like when the content author is doing the content authoring via experience editor, then the Sitecore Headless Services module which you have installed, it will make a post call to the JSS render endpoint, which is also having a route as a parameter like a home page, about us page, and it will generate the HTML and return to the your CM role, and then the CM role will be showing that in the experience editor. So you also need to consider one thing when you are building the headless application, you need to use the SDK if you wanted to support the experience editor support. So some people are not using that, and at the end they are facing issue when they need to do the rework in each and every HTML object component like a image component, text component. So we usually use the same thing in the ASP.NET that a Sitecore provided object for a text rendering or a rich text rendering, right? So those things you need to take care. So you need to educate your UI team for that. Otherwise, you can face issue in the experience editor. Your component will not support the experience editor. And important things to remember, some things which you need to consider while you are proposing the headless. Like it's not like that is straight away. So business requirement you need to analyze, like some uh, project is having a very business functionality heavy. You are having a lot of functionalities which is written in C sharp. Is it worth to move application to the headless, because you need to move every logic into the API layer, which is similar to building a new project from the scratch, right? So those things, and also if you are having a authentication or secured content type of things are there, then you need to write a complete logic in the front end, and your team is experienced and you are having a visibility to implement that or not, right? So those things you need to consider. Technical requirement, as I said, that if you are having a identity and access management type of thing, secure content is there, or lot of business logics are there, and is it worth to move that? And your current infrastructure is able to hold the headless or not? You need to increase the RAM or a physical things you need to upgrade, right? And some NFRs are there which cannot be fulfilled, right? And you are having a current skill set which is trained in headless or not, and you need to consider the migration efforts also in terms of a XDB is the main thing, and also it's not a lift and shift of a content movement. So that thing also you need to take care. Sitecore XP, XM as a headless. Some client wanted to run both the headless and this traditional one in a same instance. So it is possible from your side to do that, or you don't want a interruption in your current sprint is going on. So those things also you need to consider. And also the development flow means that you are having a skill set, or you are having a training or not, or you are having a Docker licenses or not. Because Docker is not free, you need to buy a license, and you are having a local development system, physical ramps are there or not, because those also involve the cost. Content management means that how the Sitecore headless content tree is built up, right? And your current content management tree is not having a cyclic dependency, otherwise circular dependency, otherwise you can face a issue in publishing the content. And it is not a lift and shift, you need to write a lot of custom effort and a lot of scripting you need to write to move from a normal plain vanilla ASP.NET MVC content tree to the headless. Like content migration effort you need to consider. If you are having a large amount of content, then if you have converted that into local environment, you cannot move gigabyte of data in one shot. You need to create a 500 items of packages, then only it's worth to move to the uh, XM cloud or any other environment. Or even you are serializing it, you need to make a small packages of a serialization module, not a big bang all content tree in one shot. And analytics like XDB migration things you need to consider. And if you are having a very complex use cases which is involve a integration with the third party system to implement the personalization, so how you are going to achieve in with the CDP and personalize, so those things also you need to consider. So these are the important things which you need to remember while proposing it. And these are the some references which I will be sharing the slides you can go through to get a understanding of a Sitecore headless service experience edge and the edge graphical queries. And now I've reached to the important section like a Q&A. If you guys have any queries, you can feel free to ask me.
I think there is one question from the chat box.
Yes. See, when you are having the XP and you need to move to the XM cloud, so what happened that Sitecore is generally, it depends upon your relationship with the Sitecore. So they are generally, if you are on the XM and XP wanted to move to headless, not the XM cloud, then they are giving you a generally a 3 months window to move that to utilize the headless, and you need to buy a separate license. And if you are moving to the XM cloud, that is a separate bundling or a offering from a Sitecore. So depending upon your current license cost or whatever the things you are having, they can quote you. But some client wanted to run both the things parallelly and they are moving gradually. So in some cases, you need to run both the instance simultaneously. So you need to negotiate with Sitecore or you need to get a best price from them how you can run both parallelly by decreasing your current infrastructure nodes, because Sitecore costs most of the time depend upon a number of a product environments or a non-production environment. So those things you need to discuss clearly, and then they get a license cost for the XM cloud. Same license will not. Any other questions?
I think it was a wonderful session. Thanks for presenting us in our community group. It was very informative and then very detailed. If anybody has any questions or concerns like regarding this, you can reach out to Amit. He's available on all the social medias like Twitter, Slack, and LinkedIn. He'll be help you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, SUG. Ashwin, if a traditional XP environment having a feature, what can be moving? So if you are having a business logic heavy, then you need to consider a having a API layer where you can utilize some sort of your C# based code based in the ASP.NET Core based web API, and then you can utilize this into the your front end application. But some people are having a front end based API layer also, but in those cases you will be not able to utilize any of the C# code which you have wrote in the MVC. You need to do everything there. So best option is to use with the Azure API.NET Core based API and utilize most of the code there. Maybe some namespaces you have to change, and rest of the thing you can utilize. That is the only thing. But you need to create a service layer separately for that. Thanks, Achal. And
Thank
thanks
you,
a lot,
Shiv.
SUG Gometu, for having me. And feel free to reach out to me or any feedback is for me. You can feel free to share with me.
Thank you, Amit.
Sure.
We'll look
Thank you,
forward
Alex.
to more from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah. Have a good weekend to everyone. Bye bye.
Have a good event.
See you.
Bye.
Yeah. See you in another meeting.